Hey, everybody out there on YouTube. Welcome to the show, and welcome to the pre-show cocktail hour. I'm Jay. That's Aaron.
Heyo.
And that's Tony.
Hello.
And we are recording on the last, what was for me, the last work day before the holidays. So I'd like to extend a very merry happy to you both.
It's the holidays. People want to drink. They want to relax, blow off a little steam.
Happy Merry to you.
Thank you. Last work day for me as well.
Well, cheers, my friends. I'm very happy to be on the microphones talking with you guys and talking about Frasier in just a moment.
Absolutely.
I'm going to take a nice long sip right here.
I think that's well-deserved, especially on the last day of work. I've had a couple of days where it's like doing light work, just like doing a couple of things here or there, and then running around doing shopping and chores and getting some groceries for the holiday weekend.
Classic stuff.
Do y'all have any fun plans coming up?
Head to my sister's tomorrow.
Nice.
Just gonna hang out, relax. Make some tamales, I think they said, so that'll be fun.
Ooh.
That's good. Jay?
Can't do Christmas without tamales. That's great.
No, Texas Christmas for tamales.
We're also gonna go see Godzilla -1, which is supposedly really good.
Oh, yeah, I want to see that. That looks so good. I've heard good things.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about that.
It's also weird that came out around the same time as like another Godzilla movie is coming out, the King Kong Godzilla. That doesn't look good though.
I feel like there's been just like a sea of Godzilla movies coming out the last 3 years.
Maybe they're coming out of the sea.
Oh, the Fukushima radiation.
Boom, boom, boom. Are we paying the price for our hubris of science?
It made more Godzilla movies. So I'm actually going to be in kind of like a marathon starting from Christmas Eve forward. Like we go traveling around the Metroplex looking at lights with Christy's family. And then we do some like traditions with them, open presents the next day. Then immediately we drive down to the family ranch on my side to Louisiana, and we'll open gifts with my grandparents who are like 93 and 90. And then the next day we'll have a big meal with them and then drive back to Dallas. So it's going to be a little mini marathon.
Man, well, be safe out there. But you mentioned driving around at the lights. Any places that are favorites for you to go look at lights?
A lot of times we end up in Highland Park. They usually have a lot of lights. I don't know the areas. It's been more or less that they're like, hey, drive this way, go there, turn on that road.
Okay.
I'm the chauffeur of the party, so they get to really enjoy the lights, and I just kind of drive. And once we get through a neighborhood, they're like, okay, go 2 streets over this way and go there. So, it's just that I don't know, other than Highland Park, Preston Oaks, a couple of other ones that we go through that are fun. But it also changes. Some years, like, there's neighborhoods that really go out big, and then the next year it'll be, a few houses that just don't do it. So it kind of changes from season to season.
Yeah, it seems like you're really well suited to be the chauffeur for that, because you're just so like even keeled, and you're just very like chill vibes guy. Yeah. Because like when I was a kid, I loved doing that. I loved piling into the car and looking at all the lights. But now as I'm an adult sitting in the front seat, like driving around with all the other yabos looking at the lights would give me such crazy anxiety.
I don't have any anxiety about it. I've driven and been in traffic for so long in Dallas that I'm just used to it. Ever since I was 16, as soon as I got my license, I was the one that was hauling all my friends around to everything. Yeah. Definitely, I have a memory of going to a Halo tournament where I think I fit 9 other dudes into a Suburban, and there definitely was not 9 seat belts. in that car. Man. So we had like a couple of dudes just hanging out in the trunk area.
We used to do that in high school because we had off-campus lunch.
Yeah, just pile into the car and go get lunch.
Yeah, for 11th and 12th grade, and sometimes we had more people than seatbelts, so sometimes we would put a guy in the trunk.
Which is the safest place to be, right? In the trunk?
To be fair, mine was like the trunk area of a Suburban. It wasn't like the actual, car trunk.
But we would go and eat at this Church's that was in a gas station every Tuesday. And one day we finished up eating and we have, 10 minutes to get back to class before we're late. And we walk outside and there's just a whole bunch of cops there filling up their patrol vehicles. And there's no way that we can stuff a guy in the trunk right in front of the cops. And this is something that I hope my children never hear, but, we had built up enough trust with the gas station owner that he saw what was happening and drove the last couple of people back to the school for us.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
It's one of those things that it feels like it didn't happen because that sounds too crazy, but that happened one day in Plano, Texas.
I hear you,
That's
man.
awesome.
I remember I was in a PC maintenance course with this other dude who I will remain nameless, but he was a pretty tall, big dude, and our teacher was running late, and she called us, and we were like, she had another class that she taught, and we were just like two people that helped out and fixed computers during that class. She calls us on the classroom. It's like, hey, I'm stuck in traffic. I'm not going to be there till the last 10 minutes of class. And she's like, just tell the people to do this assignment. And so we tell them that. And my other partner from my class, the maintenance course, was like, dude, let's go get some chili from Wendy's. I was like, what? He's like,
Yes.
I just really want to get some chili from Wendy's. And I was like, okay. So we go jump in his car, drive off campus. He gets the chili. It takes really long. We're getting back about the time that she's supposed to get back. He's drinking the chili while we're running down the hallway, so that he can have his chili. And we make it back 5 minutes before she walks into class. Off campus lunch.
I thought you were going to say you ran into her at Wendy's, also getting chili.
No, I have another story where I got in trouble in the hall where I was just walking with a hoodie on and headphones, and I got stopped by the vice principal. Vice principal looked me dead in the face, called me someone else's name, and told me to go to the principal's office. I said, yes, ma'am, and I went to my class.
That poor kid.
Yeah, he came up to me later on and was like, dude, did you get in trouble earlier today? I was like, no, what you're talking about.
Could you reasonably be mistook for this other person?
Yeah, he had blonder hair than
Okay.
I did, but we were probably roughly the same body type. He had a higher pitch voice than I did, but I understand why she made the mistake, but again, I'm not going to admit to it at that time. Now it's funny, right? It's a funny story now.
You ruined that kid's life.
Maybe, but
You get sent to the principal's office one more time, Wachowski, and you're off the team.
no,
You're going to call that guy. He's like, man, I'm glad I called that guy.
no, I know he graduated with us, so.
your class reunion.
All right, we ready to get rolling?
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Let's talk about some Frasier.
Previously on the show.
Well, you guys ready to get into Mrs. Davis?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I should probably phrase that differently.
Phrasing. Are we not doing phrasing?
Oh, that reminds me of sorry. I didn't mean to hop in so aggressively.
I don't know. I feel like we are definitely in an era of fear mongering about AI. There's definitely a lot of concern and fear about things that are happening, whether it's they take our jobs or, it's going to be Skynet, right?
Guess who's to say what's real and what's not real?
To me, it was a little bit like time-traveling Bin Laden, where it was so over the top that I just kind of let go of any of my worries and just accepted it.
It's almost like the campiness for me, it's weird because I love campy shit. The campiness for me is actually what kind of prevented the surrealism from going off.
I've become a chicken wing since moving to Virginia.
If I wanted a chicken nugget, I'd get a chicken nugget. Right? I hear you, boneless, quote unquote. It feels very nice for the people who like chicken nuggets, but they're not wings. They're chicken nuggets.
Oh, they're just all playing badminton, making jam. going for some shaved ice. It seems like I want to run off to the convent, get married to Jesus.
So my question is now, where do people in the middle of having like pinnacle orgasmic sex go?
I think you're right. I think everything was better, but I guess it was a lie. So it's like, I guess the question is like, does it become true if everyone believes the lie?
She just took away the falafel restaurant for all of mankind?
Well, I think we all have our own falafel restaurants.
You know, I don't watch new sitcoms, but do people still get hot wives in sitcoms these days?
Hello, and welcome to The Show, probably the world's best TV review podcast. Warmest greetings, and welcome to episode 65. Here today, we review the 2023 Paramount Plus revival of the 1993 NBC must-see TV classic. This month on The Show, amazing still it seems, it's Frasier 23. It's time to heave up, trice up, mill about smartly throughout the premises, ensuring that every speaker in sight is tuned to the internet's favorite podcast. I'd like to welcome you inside the broadcast booth. I'm Jay. I'm joined, as always, by my two Hall of Famers. To my left, a simple country lawyer who doesn't have a lot of fancy book learning, but knows the good people of this parish. It's Aaron.
Hey,
and to my other left, the winner of 3 Golden Globes, 5 Primetime Emmys, 1 Daytime Emmy, and 1 Tony Award for producing the 2016 revival of The Color Purple, it's Tony.
Hello.
Here at the Show, 100% customer satisfaction is our holy grail. We want to hear from you. Check out our Instagram for news about the show, including our postponed 2025 tour, convention, and cruise, along with plenty of other bonus content. You can find that on Instagram at The Show Pod. Send your emails to the Show TV podcast at gmail.com. You can find our YouTube channel. That is Mandamus Radio, where you can find our YouTube exclusive pre-show cocktail hour.
Today's was a doozy, so it's worth going and checking out.
Yeah, definitely. Mandamus Radio on YouTube. You can find me individually at J Suesponte. Aaron, where can we find you?
At the Must Go verse still at Tenacious Aaron.
How about you, Tony?
You can find me on Instagram at tpinquite.
Excellent. The Show is now available everywhere podcasts are sold. Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Audible, Castbox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and of course our flagship is on Spotify. You can also check out our YouTube channel, which we talked about previously. Before we dip into our stash of 25-year-old Macallan, we first must visit the unofficial scoreboard. This is the part of the show where we give some unofficial scores on things not chosen by the wheel of randomonium. So, Tony, Aaron, what have you been watching? What have you been playing? What you guys been doing?
You can go ahead, Aaron.
So, I have been spending a lot of time playing the new season of Classic World of Warcraft. So, of course, every game now has to be seasonal and have a reason to go back and play again. And WoW Classic, the 2004 version that released when we were in high school, has done the same thing, but they've added some stuff to the game that changes the way a bunch of classes play, so that there's some new healers, new tanks, new ways to do damage in the game, and they've capped it out at level 25 instead of level 60, and taken an old dungeon and turned it into a raid. And so me and a bunch of buddies have been playing a bunch of that. And because I'm leveling a bunch of characters in WoW, I have been watching through Dragon Ball Z Kai, which is a re-edit or a remaster of the old Dragon Ball Z TV series, where they cut out like all the filler and kind of cleaned it up and made it HD. And we went from 291 episodes to 159 episodes, so that's quite a bit of fluff that they cut out.
Wow.
And I don't know, for me, this is like whenever I was 13, 14 years old, what was on after school when I got home. So it's very, very heavy nostalgia. Yeah, Toonami. Like, this was my introduction to anime. So getting to go back and watch that has been really fun. And it's nice to not have to just listen to 5-6 minutes of yelling and filler, while watching through some of these sagas. I'm currently in the Android saga. I've made it through the Saiyan and Frieza, and now have started the Android saga. Yeah, almost to Cell. So I'm pretty excited. I never finished Dragon Ball Z, so I'm kind of excited to get through that. And I'm kind of curious about the Dragon Ball Super, which is like a new continuation of Dragon Ball Z that they did, which made Dragon Ball GT non-canon. So I did watch Dragon Ball GT way back in the day because I was curious, and it was weird and surreal and interesting, but I guess they decided to just kind of say, that all didn't happen. Don't worry about that.
Speaking of Toonami nostalgia, I haven't watched it yet, but did you see Netflix has a live-action Yu Yu Hakusho?
I remember seeing it announced. I did not know that it had come out. And damn, Yu Yu Hakusho was definitely...
try it out. That's an all-time great, though.
Yu Yu Hakusho is an all-time great. It's definitely one of those animes that I remember watching back in the day on Toonami. Gundam Wing, also huge...
Inuyasha. That was a
Inuyasha. Mm-hmm. That was Adult Swim, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Inuyasha, or was it? What was it? Samurai Champloo, or was it Samurai X? That was on Adult
Samurai
Swim.
Champloo. Like, it was definitely Inuyasha was late, where you like it's always the meme where like the meme's always like a guy sleeping on the couch and getting woken up by the ending song of Inuyasha. Like, what the? How long have I been on this couch?
So no, that was my introduction to anime, was Dragon Ball Z. So this has been kind of nostalgia highway. So, Jay, what about you?
To keep with the theme, my older kid has been watching a lot of the movies from. I've never heard anybody say it out loud. Is it Studio Ghibli?
Ghibli. Studio Ghibli.
Studio Ghibli. So like My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah.
Spirited Away. Kiki's Delivery Service, and these are movies I have never seen before, and they're so much fun.
Yeah, they're great. Like they're especially great for the younger age group and to watch with them, because visually stunning, artistically beautiful. There's interesting storylines. A lot of times morals and things like that are brought up. But they just had a brand new one come out. You probably have fun going to see it, The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, I've heard good things. We were talking about taking the older kid to his first movie because he's going to be 4 soon, and that seems like about the right time. So we were talking about that movie as a possibility.
Well, hey, Gohan was 4 at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, and he fought the Saiyans. So obviously, Oliver's old enough to go see a movie. So
yeah,
he also had a tail, probably.
He also had a tail. That's true.
Yeah.
Ipso facto. So I've been having a lot of fun watching those, especially I think it's My Neighbor Totoro, where there's like a cat bus that's like literally a bus that's made out of a cat with like 8 legs. It's crazy. I love
it's surreal, man. Like it's definitely a more surreal anime style, and I definitely really, it's very good. But I will say, for me, I'm more into the action anime lately. We watched Journey to the West. I just feel like I've been on this martial arts kick. Like, what's interesting is that I don't know a whole lot of anime TV shows that are like for younger like kids. Like I only know like the movies, like Studio Ghibli films. Like, usually anime is more aimed at kind of teenager age group, right, Tony?
I guess that's the anime I watch. I'm sure there's little younger kid cartoons.
I'll have to ask Adam. He's probably aware of some weird stuff.
Friend of the show, Adam. May he rest in peace.
He's not dead.
He lives in Tampa, Florida. He's in his early 50s.
If we ever did like some really good anime, he'd probably come on and guest star and give his opinion about it.
Yeah, man.
And tell us why we're wrong with our thoughts.
Well, I'm glad he's doing well, but shall we discuss what we have gathered here today to discuss the new Frasier?
Absolutely.
Do it.
And I will take the lead here. As Jay said in the intro, we have reviewed the 2023 continuation of the original 1993 to 2004 sitcom, Frasier, which was about the character Frasier Crane, played by Kelsey Grammer. And Frasier got his start as a character was in Cheers, right? Or was it even before that?
Cheers, correct.
Cheers, okay. I definitely watched through Cheers and I watched through Frasier. I know that when we went into this, Tony said he had not. Frasier, the 2023 series takes up shortly after the death of Frasier's father, Martin, and an end of his 20-year relationship with Charlotte. Dr. Frasier Crane has returned to Boston. He's hoping to have a better relationship with his son, Frederick, who is now a Boston firefighter. And Frasier ultimately takes a professorship at Harvard and moves into Freddie's apartment building. And kind of we have antics ensue throughout the series. Some, notable main characters that we see throughout the series. We have David Crane, which is Niles and Daphne's son, and he is also attending Harvard and apparently got a lot of the neuroses and mannerisms of both Niles and Daphne, which is kind of an interesting twist. We have, Eve, Freddie's friend, which is Freddie's, the kind of like the story with Eve and Freddie is that Freddie's best friend is a firefighter who passed away, and Eve was his girlfriend who they just had a kid, and so Freddie feels kind of responsible for taking care of her. And then we have Professor Cornwall, which is my personal favorite of the entire series. Absolutely, knocked it out of the park. And we have Professor Olivia Finch, who is the chair of the Harvard University Psychological Department. And that kind of gives us the main cast and characters that kind of pushes the story forward. But we definitely have some...
Moose. He's a...
Was that? Oh, yeah, we have the friends with Moose, we have Smokey, we have Tiny, and then we have obviously some famous individuals that show up from the previous series, such as Lilith and Roz. I will say, I had fun watching it, but that first episode, I was really uncomfortable for the first, 2 minutes of the show, and then all of a sudden the zinger started coming. And I was like, okay, I can roll with it. This is good. This is fun. This feels familiar.
Exactly the same. When that laugh track hit me, I was like, "Oh my god!"
It felt very old
not
school.
Enjoy the feeling, but it kind of blended into the background after pretty quickly.
Yeah, can you think of the most recently produced show that you watched that had a laugh track before this?
Oh man,
Big Bang
maybe,
Theory?
yeah. Christy watches Big Bang Theory a lot, so definitely that's probably one. I'm trying to think, because it's about that time that it completely disappeared from sitcoms. I don't think Brooklyn Nine-Nine has a laugh track. I don't think Last Man Standing has it.
Did you watch The Ranch at all on Netflix?
I did watch The Ranch. Does it have a laugh track?
Yeah, Ranch has laugh track.
Okay.
That might be the last one for me. I also watched another Netflix sitcom called Disjointed, starring Kathy Bates, who owned a dispensary. It was very dumb.
That was really dumb. Me and Christy watched it. Christy got angry at it. She was like, this is such a bad show.
Chris Redd from SNL was pretty good in it, but the rest of it was pretty bad. But, that show came out 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's very jarring at this point when you hear that canned laughter.
Yeah, it really took me out of it.
I watch enough sitcoms that I didn't even pick up on it. I'll be honest to you guys. It just blended into all the other sitcoms that I watch. So I did not even notice there was a laugh track while I was watching it, guys.
It definitely goes away.
That's funny.
It's like if you ever rewatch Friends, you're like, oh god, there's a laugh track within, 1 or 2 episodes in, you don't really hear it anymore.
Oh, yeah. So if you've ever watched Cheers, famously, almost every episode starts with one of the cast members saying, Cheers is filmed in front of a live studio audience. And the reason why they did that is that during Cheers' run, people complained about the laugh track that was too intrusive, that they were, almost bolstering their own jokes by trying to pass off this recorded laughter as the reaction of the audience, when in reality that was the recorded reaction of an audience viewing the taping. And so it was almost like this brag of like, we didn't even have to use that canned crap from the Dick Van Dyke Show. Like, these are real people
actually laughing,
genuinely laughing at these jokes. Yeah.
There wasn't like a laugh sign that kept glowing. Like on the late night shows where it's like applause.
I feel like The Office was the beginning of the end of the laugh track for the modern sitcom. Like,
yeah,
like
definitely.
The Office, because it all hangs on the cringe, awkward moments. Like a laugh track would ruin that for The Office, right? It would completely make the
Scrubs didn't have one either, did it?
I don't think it did. I think that was all. No, there's no laugh track, but I don't know. Is that the same time frame though?
I feel like Scrubs is pretty old.
Scrubs, I think, started a little before The Office.
Office is pretty old
but
too.
No offense to Zach Braff and all the Scrubsies out there, but I feel like the cultural impact of The Office is orders of magnitude bigger.
Yeah,
than
I would agree with that. And plus, you got to remember, there's the British Office that came before, which I don't know how far before, but I know it was only like 2 seasons, right?
Right, it's very short. But just quick little point of order. I think it might be a little bit worth it to talk about the word sitcom for a second. Because at the end of our last episode, we kind of struggled to really kind of define or think of what a modern sitcom would be. So sitcom, it's a shortening of situation comedy, which means it's a show where the situation is generally the same episode to episode. You have generally the same characters or sets or situations they get in. But really what that means is to differentiate it from stand-up comedy or improv comedy or sketch comedy. So when we say sitcom in its purest, most dictionary sense, it really just means what in modern parlance we might call any comedy series. Mm-hmm. But I think when you say the word sitcom, it has that connotes something.
Yeah.
I think when you think of that, you think of a show like Frasier, both old and new. The brightly lit sets, multiple cameras, the laugh track.
Yeah, Friends, Seinfeld.
Exactly. And
there are some new ones that I would say also kind of fit that model, though. Like, I don't know if you've seen like Home Economics or with, what is his name?
Topher Grace.
Yeah, Topher Grace.
Yeah, I watched a bit of that.
To me, that one feels very sitcom-y. Like, it has a lot of the elements of a sitcom. I think the problem, though, is that the sets are not as... Like, I feel like Everybody Loves Raymond, the 3 rooms, that there's the kitchen, the 2 kitchens and the 2 living rooms was like 90% of the show, right? And
right, yeah. So I think you're 100% right also earlier when you said The Office was a turning point there, because I also think of The Office as a sitcom or Modern Family as a sitcom.
Yeah, I agree.
Like there's been that pivot here, and shows like Frasier 23 are throwbacks.
They're more of it's a classic style, right? And it makes sense because it's a continuation of an old school sitcom, right? Like, it would be weird if they did a continuation of The Office and they added a laugh track, right?
Absolutely. Like, if they went no laugh track or single camera or, did this on film, it would be weird. Like, I don't want to see Frasier Crane in 4K.
No, I agree.
With his size 14 shoes.
Do I hear cathedral bells?
Oh my gosh, Christy was watching through all of the Christmas episodes of Frasier while she was wrapping gifts, and the first season, he looks like wild with the like mullet and then like missing hair on the front half of his head. Like, there are some weird styles that came out of that time period.
His hair gets like slowly tamed over the course of the show. It also recedes pretty heavily.
He looks so good, actually, in 23. Like, I feel like he looks very distinguished. Like, at the beginning, he almost looks crazy.
Yeah.
The only thing, like, it's already over, so it won't take you out of it. But, like, it like, never shows his feet because, like, when he walks, his feet are pointed out almost at, like, not a 90-degree angle, but he walks, it's very, like, duck-footed.
You saying he's got duck feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, I think that's why they almost never show him below the knees, hardly ever, like walking. And like that really took me out of it. When I first saw it, I was like, then every time he walked after that, I was like, everything above his knees like looks spry and young, and obviously his voice and his mind looks good. But like every time I saw him walk, it was kind of like, because I noticed it early on, I was like, just kind of like, oh yeah, this dude's kind of he's old.
He is old.
Yeah, he didn't move that well, and it was like this show in some ways was an inversion of the old show, where old show began with Frasier's son moving his father in with him, and then this one, it was him moving his son in with him. And a big part of old Frasier was that the father character walked with a cane. But I don't know Kelsey Grammer. I've never met him, but he kind of gives off a vibe of someone who would not publicly walk with a cane.
I think, didn't he say something like that? Like, I will not use a cane?
He?
I thought he said something to that effect in the show. When he threw out his back or whatever, didn't he?
Yeah.
I feel like
he messed up his knee in that one episode with the plumber.
Yeah, his knee. I thought he said something. He's like, I will not use a cane.
And I think that fits with the character of Frasier being, in a lot of episodes, a very fundamentally vain person.
Yes, absolutely. Appearances are everything to Frasier at the end of the day.
Coming from not really having seen the original series, like, I don't know if it's Kelsey Grammer or the writing or like the way they set the character was like, so many things in the show work because like I guess he's so like smart but also ridiculous that like
yeah,
a lot of things are okay in this show that like I would be super turned off if it was a different character. I don't know if that's just like speaks to like the talent of Kelsey Grammer, or it's just like, I mean, I think also the writing was really good, but it's just like maybe because the character is so like he is actually capable intellectually, but also like you said, really vain. So like it works with all the ridiculous things he says and does somehow.
Well,
whereas like otherwise, if it was just a normal character, neither of those things would be appealing to me. Like it would really take me out of it.
I am wounded.
But I didn't get taken out of it in this show.
I think that it's good, number one, in that things like there's definitely a comeuppance, right? Like when things like he tries to do something, things go sideways, right? I definitely this series definitely felt very reminiscent of the old show, even down to the episode where I think his father and him were both like mixed up and thought they were dating the same woman, and then there was the homage of him and his son kind of doing the same thing. So I feel like they did a good job of pulling a lot of like inspiration from the original 11 seasons, because they had quite a bit to pull from. But at the same time, as you're saying, that the kind of the character works, and I think that after 11 seasons of development, they kind of he knows how to write and create situations for Frasier to deal with. Like even at the end with the whole Christmas situation and all the trees and everything, and him just like freaking out, like that felt very Frasier. Like it felt very much like the character and how he would act as everything fell apart.
Well, Kelsey Grammer is such an amazing performer.
Yeah,
I think just his voice and how he draws you in, you know, I think if I was ever seeing him on stage, I would walk out going, God, Kelsey Grammer stole the show, no matter how small of a part he played.
Yeah, I was just really impressed. Like sometimes, like it really did have a lot of emotional heart, and I feel like it's hard to sell like the more serious, like it would almost be cringe if someone else did it, but when he did it, it wasn't cringe for some reason. But I really liked that part, because it could be the serious moments didn't feel as out of place as I feel like they could have been.
Because he is a psychologist and it is dealing with like mental health and things like that. Like they can go there and then they can have the ridiculous situation where it's an entire room filled with Christmas trees, or an actual live goose.
That's very true to the whole show, that Frasier has advice for someone else, but the doctor cannot heal himself.
Yeah. Like Alan's whole like writing on the paper, like that Freddie had daddy issues or whatever. He's like, I've got mommy issues on the other side. Alan, I laughed.
Like you said.
Yeah, Alan was the best. He was so
absolute
fun.
standout.
Was he in the original?
No, not that I know of.
Oh man, I was
Not
like,
at
this
all.
dude is. I text Jay like when I was like 2 episodes in. I was like, and Alan is carrying the comedy on his broad, hunched over shoulders.
Like right off the bat,
Yeah.
too. Like the moment he shows up, it's immediate zingers.
Yeah, great delivery, great lines.
He was the secret sauce where a lot of those other characters kind of sucked.
Yeah.
But when they interacted with Alan, they were great.
Yeah. I will not sit here and let you insult me. I insist you do it over drinks.
Yeah, whoever wrote that, whoever the writers on those lines that Alan got was amazing.
I hope it was,
I was
all
about
improv.
I was about to message y'all because I was like, episode 4 in, I'm like, so did we just drop the baby storyline? Like, he hasn't been mentioned in the first 3 episodes after the premiere. And then finally they started at least like halfway mentioning, but we never saw him again. And apparently you can have parties in the house with a sleeping baby. And like, you can just walk out of your apartment like and talk to people and stuff. Like, I guess we
Yeah.
did see that she had a babysitter for one of the nights, but like most times she just like comes over for like 5 minutes, like, which I mean that's not a very long time but still I'm just like, this baby very rarely gets mentioned along with the dead boyfriend unless she's trying to make a point.
Yeah, the noise level in Eve's apartment has no correlation to whether the baby is going to be up at all. And, you know, I'll admit I'm hypersensitive. I've got a newborn in my house right now. But that was, you know, I definitely had those same thoughts where I was like, what about the goddamn baby?
Someone think of the children.
Exactly. Now, in the first episode, I will give them credit for the head fake they gave kind of using the baby, where it felt like they were heading towards the
Gay
secret
son?
was that Freddy was gay. Exactly.
Exactly was my first thought. Yeah.
And, you know, I think that was one of the few fakes that they sold convincingly. But I did like that they were able to come back with an alternate storyline that like still had an emotional hook on there with the dead boyfriend.
I also really liked Frasier as basically Dr. Phil for TV. Like,
And Tom Arnold is here!
that was so fucking funny. Like, I was dying laughing when they did the montage of his show. Like, it was so fucking funny.
Where like by the end he's basically just doing Ellen and he's like dancing with the audience.
Well,
Putting on his thinking cap.
It's funny because of how, like, the entirety of Frasier is him doing a radio show where people call in and he, like, does, you know, the psychiatry on the air. And to see how far he's fallen to be basically, like you said, Ellen.
Yeah.
That was good. And I'm glad that he did that to the character because it made, like, him trying to be like, well, I want to become a professor. And he's, like, having to deal with his, you know, famous persona, so to speak, was funny. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, the rest of that episode I did not really care for, but the montage of start to finish on his television show was gold. Like one of the few laugh out loud moments of the show. But you mentioned about the professorship. So I wanted to ask about Frasier's job at Harvard and whether or not that like really kind of fit with the show.
I don't know, like,
We really didn't interact with it that much. Like, I guess it's just an excuse
to be at Harvard.
get him to hang out with Alan and see David every once in a while.
Because maybe I'm thinking too hard, but it felt like it would have landed a little better if the zany antics were going on at Cambridge Community College and not Harvard.
I see what you're saying. Like, Harvard is not really a sitcom location, so, like, all the ridiculous, silly things. But would you have David? Would David be going to Cambridge Community College, or would he be going to Harvard? I think that was their tie between,
Fair.
like, with Alan, with Olivia, with David, you know, all of those things. And then they wanted to tie in the whole Freddie, like, got kicked out or left, you know. So I don't know. I agree with you. Him going from being a radio show to a TV show to Harvard professor, I don't know that I buy it. Like it's kind of out there, but at the same time, he technically didn't get, what was it? He was trying to get like full professorship. It was more like he was like on kind of like a pseudo probation.
Right. Yeah, he was an adjunct lecturer, which makes 100% sense. Woo! I made myself a strong drink tonight, gentlemen. Heyo. No, it made 100% sense because, like, didn't you guys ever take classes, especially like upperclassmen classes, that essentially boiled down to story time with interesting person in whatever field it was? Was that just me?
Mine were mostly math.
Yeah, I was gonna say I took economics shit. I ended up like really grinding out my major, and so like I had to take a bunch of freshman level courses just to fill hours. So like I took like sociology, like freshman level sociology when I was a senior, instead of taking those kind of classes.
Oh dang. Well, I was lucky enough to have a couple of these courses where, like, for example, at Tech, it was the chancellor, who was Kent Hance, who was his claim to fame is he's the last person to defeat George W. Bush in a political election. It was for the West Texas U.S. House back in the 90s. But anyway, he was the chancellor of the university, and it was basically just him talking about interesting stuff. And then even at Baylor, I had a class that was like, the title of it was like legislative procedure or something, but it was really just an ex-Texas House member who came in and talked about his time in the House, and then when he got done telling his stories, he had like interesting friends of his come in. So, you know, having Frasier be that guy makes 100% sense. But then later in the season, once he starts fighting for this professorship, it kind of lost me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sitcom. It's a reason for him to be with Freddie, right? Like that feels to me, I don't know that this continues, right? Like I feel like this is okay to be a one and done. Yeah. If I'm being honest, but I don't know that Kelsey Grammer is going to leave it alone. But I think it's a big fan service, and he had to have a reason in his mind to be out there. And I don't think he wanted to do. I think that it's kind of like he had to have a reason to re-dignify Frasier, you know, since he did the whole bit with the Dr. Phil joke.
I think it's the correct decision to base the show around Frasier reconnecting with Freddie, especially in light of like the cast of who's either dead or just not coming back.
Yeah, I liked Freddie.
Yeah, that as your foundation is good. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to end up in Boston again, but you know, if you want to kind of bookend it, where that's where Cheers was, that's where the character Frasier started. Like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll buy that.
Would you have preferred that he goes to Boston instead of going to Harvard? He starts up a new radio show in Boston, like let's say satellite radio, why not, or some shit like that. Like
maybe a podcast.
Maybe he's doing a podcast.
What if he's
doing
just
the Frasier?
got a
dude, that's it.
Clinic, and Alan is
no.
next door.
No.
He's got a Twitch channel.
No. He does. You're right. He does a podcast where he talks about interesting like cases, and he just uses a fake name or whatever. And it's the big thing is to listen to his new podcast where he can do it anywhere. So he buys the apartment building. He's built a studio, and he's hired David as a part-time employee who's helping him run all of the equipment. And so he's trying to get Freddie involved in running his podcast, and Freddie wants to be a firefighter. Like, you could totally do one like that, and it would probably fit. Maybe even a little bit more, like you're saying, with the whole persona of him being a radio jockey and Dr. Phil. And this is maybe him a more of a reclamation of his identity from the old series. But I think that this was one of those things where he wanted to give Frasier something to go for that was very different, right?
It also gave us the co-workers.
It did. You wouldn't have Alan in that situation with the podcast unless he was just like a guest star. Although having Alan comment on like ridiculous psychiatric situations would be pretty fucking funny too.
You know what? I was almost going to come on here and say that it was missing a Roz, but now that I'm kind of thinking through it, Alan was Roz. He was also a little bit of Niles, but Alan was the Roz, the one who would strip Frasier back down to size.
Yeah.
God, I loved Alan.
Dude, Whenever the guy comes up and starts saying all the reindeer names in one go, he's like, "Stop! You're running our fun."
I enjoyed David as well.
I did like David, yeah.
Yeah.
They used him sparingly enough.
Yeah. His bit where he was Alan's lackey was
Very good.
excellent.
I'm glad they dropped, or they seemed to back off on the Eve Freddy thing that was kind of like halfway through. They're like trying to set something up, and then I'm glad they backed off of that.
I wish they either shat or got off the pot. Either don't do that at all, or like give me more of that. Like I was irritated by that.
I honestly don't think they needed.
Yeah, I didn't want it, and I'm glad that they kind of like maybe they realized this is a dumb idea, and then they just kind of never brought it up again.
I think I agree with you. I think that they were toying with it, but then they were like, no, let's go a different direction. And I'm glad they did, because I thought that the episode where they were both going after the same girl was pretty funny.
How does she, as a bartender,
Blind date.
know all of these like amazing women? Like, how does she have all these friends of such diverse like
They drink at the bar.
lifestyle set? I don't know. I can't think of a word to say, but
They're her regulars at the bar.
Clearly.
You know? Yeah. Like she could have been Sam. She could have been female Sam. God damn it. This show missed so many
There's a lot.
opportunities.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they could have done. I feel like that just having a bar wasn't good enough. They could have done some kind of cheersy type of like situation. They could have at least said cheers at one point in time.
I was disappointed by the set, because the set for Frasier's living room from original Frasier, like, you know, Tony, you've never seen the show, right?
right.
But do you know what Frasier's apartment looks like?
Just vaguely. Maybe I've seen it through like clips.
Right. Like you might be imagining the Seattle skyline in the background and like the wood and the openness of it. It's such an iconic place that even if you've never seen the show, if you saw a photograph of it, you'd probably say that's Frasier's apartment. It's like the bridge of the Enterprise. Like, you don't have to see Star Trek to know that's the bridge of the Enterprise. And I was really hoping that they would carry on that legacy and give Frasier a really cool apartment in Boston with a really great view. But it was really just another sitcom set with a staircase in the background. I was disappointed.
Yeah, but that also may be just kind of one of the modern restrictions of filming a sitcom. Like, how much money did Paramount Plus actually give them to film this, right? Like, how much was Kelsey Grammer kind of, pushing forward this project? So I think that to some extent, I would give a few concessions to that, like, fact that there may be, some limitations to what access they had. Again, same with the Cheers. Maybe they don't have access to the IP. Maybe they don't have the ability to make those references without causing an issue for the studio. So there may have been other things that stood in the way that we're not thinking about.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I agree with you. You could do something more iconic though, like looking out at Boston or something in the same way. I do agree with that.
Now, Boston skyline kind of sucks compared to, especially Seattle. Like, with Seattle, you've got the Space Needle, immediately recognizable. But I think if I showed you a photograph of downtown Boston, you'd just be like,
did they draw it though every time at the beginning of Frasier? Like,
yeah.
I mean, if they drew it, there's at least a sky.
Well, there is a skyline. It's just not particularly identifiable. Yeah, it's not all that good. Like Houston.
Houston's garbage because of all the sweat. You're just like walking around in like a lot of sweat in the air.
Hey, this is not the first time I've said this today, but they can't take a shower in Houston before we flush our toilets in Dallas. So remember that.
I'll never forget. I was sitting in a history class, and one of the coaches that taught history walked in and was like, "Why doesn't Texas sail off into the Gulf?" And they were like, "Why?" Because Oklahoma sucks.
That was why the panhandle of Texas was so windy, because Oklahoma sucks and New Mexico blows.
That's funny.
Dang, we just we lost Houston and Oklahoma and New Mexico audiences.
New Mexico's great.
Our listener count's going to go from 11 to 10.9.
They don't have Wi-Fi in Oklahoma, so
You know, there's
good.
pieces of Oklahoma that are actually really pretty.
like Windstar and Choctaw.
Oh, yeah. Specifically the blackjack table.
Ooh. Yeah, they got pay that stupid tax every time.
Oh, yeah.
I just always, I don't know.
play,
Like I've never
baby.
been like, you know what? I want to go to a concert in Oklahoma, and I always see advertisements in the Metroplex for like, oh, so and so's playing at Choctaw. I'm like, I don't want to drive there.
I like Oklahoma City. It's got a pretty youthful vibe, I feel.
Yeah, Bricktown's all right.
I ate this amazing ramen place there, actually. It was really, really good. I can't tell you the name of it, but I was like, dang, this is some
When I was in
ramen.
Tulsa for work, there I've had a very, very Denton vibe to the like arts district where the stuff. I'll just be honest, Tulsaville is very much like Denton to me.
Now,
It's up and
most
coming.
listeners will think that's an insult, but I think I don't want to speak for you, but I'm guessing that wasn't intended to be an insult. Right?
No, I mean I went to Denton for school, and there was a bunch of like hip restaurants and shit that again, it wasn't like super fancy, but it was a bunch of, yeah.
Did you go to UNT?
So that was my undergrad was UNT.
You were the captain of UNT. We should make a
I was
initialism
not.
of that.
It was so bad at UNT, the spirit for sports, that I remember my freshman year, there was like these people running around in the back of a pickup throwing UNT shirts at people at the quad, and like they threw one out and like no one picked it up. They had to get out of the car and go pick up the shirt that they threw at people. That's sad, right?
That's sad.
Well, they've got to make sure that people come see UNT.
I took an insurance
Exactly,
class, and the lady for the insurance class like ran the tailgating. There were more people who attended the tailgating than attended the game on average. But it was so funny. She was bragging about getting like Bacardi to sponsor the tailgating because it was a bigger event than the football game.
Is there wind
it
blowing
is-
in your ears, Aaron? From all these jabs going over your head?
They're not going over my head. I understand the joke. Like it's literally a mug that
rising
people
above
would
it.
get is the coffee mug where it has the handle and then UNT right next to it. So it's
Oh,
dude, they sold it on campus. People
clever. I
love
like
that
that.
that
shit.
is good. You're the distinguished, mature person on the pod.
I just went
the
there for
Frasier
4
among
years,
us.
so the joke's no longer that fresh.
No, but I love Denton, and it's been way too long since we've had.
That's what I'm
a
saying.
pub
Like
crawl
downtown
there, so we
Denton's
gotta do that
fun.
soon.
It's a lot of fun to go down there, and I don't know how many bars are open at this point in time, but when I was there was like 12 bars around the square that you could run around to, and just enough to have a good pub crawl without having to walk too far. It has been a long time since the pub crawls.
good times.
That is a long time ago.
Yeah, when was the last time you had an
the
Irish
pub
car
crawl,
bomb?
which had to be like 2013. That's got to be the last time we did a pub crawl was
man.
2012, 2013.
Oh, it's been a while. We should do that again. Tony, get back down here.
Alrighty, sounds good. Man, I want to. I want to go out to Texas and see everybody. But I'm like, man, it's gonna take like a whole week. I need to drive all over the state, basically. I need to get to you. I need to meet Aaron in person. I need to get to Wichita Falls. I should go to Oklahoma to see my dad. I need to get to Midland and got some friends there. It's just like it'd be a statewide road trip.
You're a very popular person.
Don't you know it? Don't you know it?
I had to drive out to Lubbock for work, and I just want to say, because I know you're all matter, that there's two routes, and one of them there's bathrooms that you can stop at, and there's one that there's no bathroom for like forever. And of course, every time my GPS always put me on that one, and it was always like, God damn it! Like, why is it so far?
Yeah. Wait,
Does
you
it take
talking
you
about
through
like
Seymour?
114, 380? Yeah. Oh man, you just got to ask me. I can tell you where to poop.
It's
Man.
not a poop thing. I drink too much coffee on the road, man. Like when I'm on the road trip, I love. He knows where all the
Jay's got a
secret poop
personal
stations
Google
are.
Maps saved.
No,
He's got them all.
Exactly, especially in Oh God, especially in Seymour, because there's definitely like a.
I found some barbecue pit like after
situation.
the drought of restrooms, like that was actually quite good. I went in and bought a barbecue sandwich and was like, "Oh, can I use your restroom before I order?"
No, man. Yeah, like that was the route that I typically took going back and forth to school. Like I almost never took I-20. And so like I am your Sherpa for what is it? Jacksboro, Idalou, all those hot spots.
See,
Floyd
with
Ada.
the era of GPS now though, like that's the thing is I said it and I forget it. I don't even think about it and I'm just like my family definitely were the people who were like, "Oh, that looks interesting. Let's stop there." You know, like we would just hit the road and go.
Yeah.
And my wife's family is like they planned out every stop along the way. So I'm way more willing to just be like, we'll stop at the next town. The problem is it's like, oh, there's
I'm
60
with you.
miles between these two towns.
There's something about the drive between Lubbock and Wichita Falls that like I can drive 10 hours easier than I can drive that 3 hours. Like it immediately wants me. I have to fall asleep. Like it puts me into a sleep state. Like I'm always on the verge of falling asleep in that 3 hours. I can drive 10 hours on another road and I'm like, I'm still okay. I'm good. But I could not make it those 3 hours.
Every time I'm driving like near Wichita, it's like when I'm coming home from like New Mexico or Colorado or something like that. So I'm always excited because I'm like, I'm going to get my dog. I'm going to get home, sleep in my bed. So it's always the tail end of the trip.
Anyway, so Frasier, yeah?
Are we ready to do some scores?
Oh,
I'm ready.
And I don't know, what are we going to call, like, how many Liliths is this going to be?
Oh man, I could have sworn I wrote it down a note, but I guess I didn't.
J.D. Salinger's pins.
All right, Tony, how many of J.D. Salinger's pens is Frasier 23 for you?
I'm not gonna. I mean, I might blow the average out because I don't know if I was just in the mood I was in. Or I was just like pleasantly surprised. I really liked this show. I liked the writing, the characters, and like I guess that's maybe I would have liked him even more coming from the past, or maybe I liked him more because I didn't watch the old show. But I mean, Alan by himself is worth like I'm gonna go with an 8.
Oh, nice.
J.D. Salinger pins. I know that's probably pretty high, but I really, really liked it, and maybe just like more than I thought I would. Maybe that's why I've kind of come in high on it.
8 pens of J.D. Salinger from the Tony Meister. How about you, Aaron?
So I was feeling about like a 7.75 because, and I'll say this, I love sitcoms. I love sitcoms. I love like the laugh track. None of that stuff makes me cringe. It doesn't bother me at all. And for me, the amount of fan service, the keeping the essence of the character, the homages to the original service, like the original series, all of those things like really made me enjoy the show. There were, bits of cringe thrown in there for the modern audiences, but I feel like a lot of the jokes like hung on the zingers and the punchlines, which made me feel very nostalgic for old school sitcoms. So I'm right there. I'm going to say 7.5. It was a lot of fun. It was an enjoyable romp. And honestly, Tony, if you did enjoy it, you should go back and watch old school Frasier. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, if you thought Alan was funny, Niles, Frasier's brother,
is
good. Awesome.
So good. I'll send you a list of episodes. It's
oh yeah, I would like that.
Yeah, man. Man, it's 8 J.D. Salinger pens for Tony, 7.5 from Aaron. Wow. So I actually never explained what my cocktail was this evening, and I think it's apropos at the moment. What I have here is a lovely martini, one of my favorite drinks, a drink that comforts me, that makes me feel at home, feel good at the end of a long day. And I made this martini with a particular brand of gin. It's James Gin, which has nothing to do with my name. It's from British personality James May from Top Gear. He has a gin brand. And I bought that gin just for who made it, for James May. Not that he has any gin credentials, but just that he made a TV show that I liked many years ago. And I feel like that's pretty analogous to Frasier, where I was going to watch this show no matter what and be excited about it and happy for it. And I watched it twice, and I tried so hard to like it. I wanted to like it, but it didn't live up to what I wanted it to be. And maybe that's unfair. Maybe I was expecting it to be the old show and just wanted it to be the old show, and it was never going to be. But I just didn't really care for it. It's going to be a 3 J.D. Salinger pens for me. If you were a big fan of the old show, I wouldn't discourage you from watching it, but I would say just don't have any expectations for it, maybe.
Go in and expecting fan service.
Yeah. So 3 J.D. Salinger pens from
That'll be a good average score
me.
for the show.
Man, so that gin, it's also Navy strength, meaning that it's overproofed. Whew. And it's
You didn't get
getting-
Aviation Gin from Ryan Reynolds?
I do enjoy aviation. It
I
gets
know,
a bad
we've been on a
rap
lot of
from
trips
some
together.
people.
Oh.
All right, so that is an average score of 6.16.
The show is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
And that actually kind of fits with what it gets on like Rotten Tomatoes. I think it gets like a 6.1. Yeah. It's got a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes, an average rating of 6.1 out of 10. So we're actually right on the money with that score.
Wow, and I'm honestly, I'm pretty surprised to hear Tony say that you like it, because I was watching it feeling like the show was getting by on fan service and just getting by on the magnanimous Kelsey Grammer and our nostalgia from the old show. But I'm heartened to hear that it has more out there for people who haven't even seen the old show.
I laughed out loud at Alan. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed Alan.
I just don't watch many shows, I guess, in that same vein where there's like comedy and also like seriousness and also like smart people, you know? I'm usually watching dumb stuff like Rick and Morty, or it's like an action anime like Aaron was talking about earlier. So
A bunch of screaming.
I guess I just- yeah. Or like, I mean, what other shows I'm usually watching like more serious shows, so I guess it was a nice change of pace, and I really liked it. Alan number 1. That's what I'm saying. Alan gets the 8.
Alan carried the show. Like, it really did for me.
All right, well, 6.16 repeating, that puts it around the bottom third of our all-time list, just below Ozark and just above Upload.
Yeah, that seems fair.
All right, well, shall we approach the Wheel of Randomonium?
We shall. I'm running off of my laptop, so things may be a little more janky than normal. Let's see. Do we have the wheel on the screen?
It is.
I have visual confirmation.
Alrighty. So, ignoring all ads, welcome to the Wheel of Randomonium. We have on the offering list this round, we have Reacher, which was Tony. You want to tell us about Reacher? You want to reach out there and tell us about it?
Yeah, this is just off my it's just off my head, because I did watch the first season. I think it's based on some like best-selling books about Jack Reacher, and there's also that movie with Tom Cruise. There's 2 movies, I guess, that Tom Cruise did, but it's like this former army military police officer, and now he's like a nomad who kind of just goes around the country, traveling, living off the clothes off his back, but then it's just like the cases he runs into. So it's pretty good. It's kind of like it'll be like a crime, like solving show, but with action.
Okay. Holland from Accounts. Jay, tell us about that one.
I am sticking with Paramount Plus for this show. It's a rom-com television series from Australia. It stars a married lead couple. The man is voiced by the same guy who voices... He's played by, not just voiced, because it's live action.
I was going to say,
Sorry.
is it animated?
No, it's live action, but he voiced Uncle Rad on Bluey.
Okay.
if you remember him, from the Double Babysitter episodes. And then the female lead is, if you've seen American Auto, she's like the PR kind of female lead from that show. But I've only watched the first 2 episodes, but it's been pretty great, and especially because there's a whole lot of chemistry between the leads. But the basic setup is man is driving down road, woman crossing street decides on a whim to flash her breast at him. He is distracted and runs over a dog, so these 2 strangers decide to sort of jointly care for the dog, and shenanigans ensue. So, yeah, Paramount Plus, calling from accounts from Australia.
Very nice. And I am bringing to the table Curb Your Enthusiasm, the classic of classic cringe comedies. I kind of, in my mind, like, I've always thought of Curb as very cringy, but it doesn't feel like the same type of cringe as modern kind of humor is. So I want to go back. I want to see what the difference is. And also, this is kind of in honor of Curb going into its final season. Larry David said he's done. He can finally become the man that he was intended to be by finishing Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Is it more like a secondhand embarrassment more than cringe? Is that
I don't know. Like, Jay, your thoughts? How would you... I definitely think it's pretty cringy, but I guess that anything that is embarrassing, I feel like it's more acceptable because he always again, he gets his comeuppance. Things don't work out for him in these cringy situations.
Now, I've only watched maybe the first 2 seasons of Curbed, but it's 100% cringe comedy. But Aaron, honestly, I don't know what your definition of cringe is, and I'm honestly rooting for Curb to win now so that we can spend a podcast more exploring that. I mean, because I would love to have a barometer for when, like, you are or aren't going to like the cringe of it, but I have no way to know, because sometimes you're like, I love Nathan for You, and I'm like, what? You're like, but I hate
I'll tell you,
Zack Snyder's going to be famous.
I will
like,
give
what?
you the answer, because it's actually a very easy answer. Yeah. It's the slow-moving train wreck where it just leaves it permanently. Like, I feel like a lot of times there were scenes in The Office where they just left it hanging awkwardly for so long. Like, at least with, like, Curb Your Enthusiasm, immediately things go south. Like, it's cringy, it's awkward, but there's also a call-out. There's also, like, something happening that he has to deal with because of the cringy situation. His friends, his family calling out his ridiculous, rules or whatever. So, yeah, it's cringy, but there's a release. Whenever, like, it feels like as comedy continued on, the goal was to try and make the cringe hang and linger as long as fucking possible before you finally got the payoff. And that's the thing that bothers me, is like, I'm fine with an awkward, cringy situation if we can kind of move on. Can we let it happen, let everyone feel it? I think it's when someone else in the actual show cringes also, like, I get that release, I get that catharsis, but when everyone else is just standing there letting it happen, I'm just like, oh god, it hurts.
Okay, so
that's a great explanation.
But I guess once we start to try to apply that, I still feel like I am just shooting blind here. So I think in my mind, I put Curb in the same category as something like Party Down, where Party Down had plenty of cringe moments, but there was the release that you're talking about.
Yeah, I would say there's the release, and I love Party Down. I have no problem watching Party Down. I can rewatch Party Down over and over again.
Maybe I'm getting it then.
Like, again, it's whenever they just let it linger forever or never let it pay out. Like, those are the ones that bother me. Like, or whenever it's like, oh gosh, okay, I see this, oh god, all right. Okay, yeah, here it is. Well, no, we're not. No, we're not going to let it. No, okay, we're going to keep on going. Still cringy. Like, it just, like, if you just keep on going and going and going, that's the stuff that I can't stand.
Oh, okay. See, now you're making me want to kind of change my vote here.
Dude, change away. Go experiment.
Okay.
It has not been
I've told you, I'm willing to sit. I sat through fucking, what's it called? I'd sit down the boat one that you always are talking about below deck, but I'd watch Siesta Keys. If I can get to Siesta Keys, wasn't cringe. It was just uncomfortable.
Right, that's different.
Just was like these. It's different.
Okay, so I want to test this, and I'm going to test this with. I'm very sorry to Colin from accounts. I'm going to finish you, but
it's going to straight up Mortal Kombat that show.
A different show available on Paramount Plus. It's a Showtime show called The Curse.
The Curse.
That's
The
with
Curse.
Emma Stone and
precisely. It's Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone, and in my mind, it's a show that you're gonna hate because the lingering is the whole show, but it's also Nathan Fielder, and I know you like Nathan Fielder.
Yeah,
so,
I really liked him in Nathan For You. I really liked him in John Benjamin Has a Van.
Yeah. So, I'm really curious to see where you fall on this show if that eventually does get picked.
Tony, do you want to put up a cringe offering and start off 2024 in the cringe year?
Nah, I think 66% is high enough.
Tony's he's like, I don't want to do that.
You know what show I love clips of, but I hate every time I watch it is I Think You Should Leave.
Oh yeah,
I love clips.
I don't even know.
That is like some serious levels of cringe where things just go on way too long.
Yeah, like if you thought Siesta Key was bad, I Think You Should Leave would kill Aaron.
But don't put that in there. Leave Reacher in there.
I don't know. I don't remember cringing through. Christy cringed through Zach Stone Wants to Be Famous. Is going to be famous. I didn't really cringe through that much. There were some cringy parts, but I don't feel like it was. It kind of had that same kind of move on past it.
Well, I Think You Should Leave. It's sketch comedy, and it's like if you took all of George Costanza's worst moments, and the person just keeps doubling down on it. And
is that the you sure
Tim
about
Robinson.
that?
Yeah.
You sure about that?
Exactly. Yeah.
I do fucking shit.
I do fucking shit. I've never seen the show, but it's sketch comedy. It's not sketch comedy's hit or miss for me. Sometimes I can really enjoy it, like that Mitchell and Webb look. I love it, but then other ones I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, I think that would just be torturing you, but The Curse, I think, is science.
All right, so with that, we will shuffle and spin to win.
Spin, spin, spin.
Let's spin the McConaughey wheel.
All right.
Oh!
The Curse.
It's
What
The
a change.
Curse.
What a change.
Woo!
It would have been Colin.
It would have been
The
Colin.
Curse.
Sorry, Colin. Yeah, so it's on Showtime, which is now available at this moment on Paramount Plus, which is in talks with merging with Mr. Max. So,
Oh, really?
Say what?
I'm a little pissed off because Max is getting rid of their 4K plans unless you pay way more money. It's going to be 1080p.
bunch of dicks.
I know. I mean, I get it for free, but still.
No, but what I was referencing was Discovery Warner Brothers is in talks to merge with Paramount, who owns CBS and MTV and a whole lot of other stuff.
Are the movie studios merging too?
Yeah, I think like the
That's
whole
a
thing.
pretty big.
So
yeah, that's a big deal.
you could have like a Batman, Harry Potter, Star Trek crossover
With Top Gun.
with Top Gun.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
And
It's definitely on the
Fast
horizon.
and Furious.
What I do want is Scooby-Doo doing episodes with all of these people. So that's the silver lining.
But then you have to have
I
cartoon
want
versions.
21
of
Jump
people.
Street to come back. It's been enough time. Let's get Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum up in here.
24
and
Jump
just
Street.
Do random spin-off comedies.
Wasn't that the whole closing sequence in that movie?
There was, yeah.
That
were
was
legitimately
gold.
going to make a Men in Black.
They should
21
have.
Jump Street crossover. Like I think it was in like whatever kind of pre-production it was in, but
with Channing Tatum or with like Johnny
yeah,
Depp?
with like Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, and then I don't know who was going to be on the Men in Black side, but
Oh, just take my money.
that is the last great comedy with a sequel that like I literally like laughed so hard at. That's the last one in my memory where I can just be like, yeah, I laughed multiple times, like super hard.
I don't feel that. Like I was watching clips, and they had like Quentin Tarantino on. He was like, "We are in a worse state than the '80s when it comes to movies right now." So I think we need some new like directors to come out and show us how movies are done again.
The scene in 22 Jump Street when have y'all seen it?
Yeah.
Like he slept with the captain's daughter, and like the captain's like super pissed off, and then you just hear the kitchen timer going off in Channing Tatum's head. It's like click, 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 ding, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And he stands there like, "Oh man, that made me laugh." The whole theater was laughing so hard at that moment. Like that's the last time I really laughed hard, I think, at a comedy movie in a theater.
It's been a while.
See, I always thought it was ironic that when Tony and I were taking our grand trips together, often they would have 21 and 22 Jump Street available, because that's how I felt with Tony whenever we went out together, that I was Jonah Hill and you were Channing Tatum.
Well, that's a compliment, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. We were a team fighting crime. And now we just talk about TV shows.
Entertain the masses. All 11 of them. Only 10 are AI bots.
Oh. If we were only so lucky to have that many listeners. But we are so glad to be here talking about these TV shows with each other and with you listeners, because
it's a wonderful time. It's a wonderful time.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. So I am very, very excited to come back and talk to you guys about Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone's and Benny Safdie's The Curse on Paramount Plus /show.
Awesome.
Whew. Very good time talking with you guys. Thank you so much, Aaron, for joining us.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much, Tony. You are here today.
I am here.
All right, so listeners, we love you very much. Check us out on all those platforms I mentioned before. Big thanks to our executive producer, Dick Wolf. Been a while since I shouted you out, but we're very excited to have you on board. But until next time, I will be seeing you in the trees.
Dun, 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 dun. It's the Dick Wolf outro.
His name is Kelsey. He's very wealthy. He doesn't have to be doing